And we are on the air.
Holy moly, I'm telling you this week. I hope you did. I don't know if you've had a busy week this week. I had a relatively busy week for, like you did, I think 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. You had a busy week, but not always with editing, but
Yep.
busy stuff.
Yep.
I did a little bit of both. So I
Right.
don't know where you're at with the whole thing, but I'm looking forward to hearing your take. I'm even jumping past the weather
Yeah.
chat. So
It's daylight outside. All right.
that's pretty much all that we can hope for these days.
Yeah. All right. So you want to know where I am?
Sure. Oh yeah. So I gotta see how we're doing here. So last time you were on page 242. You made 20. You made 28 pages. You were off by 2.
Yep.
This time you were hoping to do 30 pages.
Yep.
Fill in some blanks and something about a second draft. I'm not really sure what that was.
Yeah,
about,
that was a stretch goal.
Okay. I'll put that with a question mark there now.
You added that, not me.
I just added that now.
You added it last week. You said, okay.
I added second draft.
Right.
I didn't. I just added the question mark.
I see. Okay.
Based on your reaction to second draft.
Yeah. I'm on page 284.
284. So hold on a second. Oh wait. Wow. You actually exceeded your goal.
Exceeded my 30, but
32.
my hope was actually to get to the end, which is like another 10 pages or so. Yeah.
10 pages to go.
Another 10 pages or so. The problem is... hold on a second here. I have to try. I tried my damnedest to get my throat clear before we started on this, but it seems that as soon as we start talking...
That's why I have the little teacup here. It's just to make sure that everything's lubricated today.
Yeah.
So you drink from it. That's why. Me, I look back at our stuff, and I'm like always drinking. What I should be having is a little glass of writer's tears over here.
Exactly.
That would make the morning more exciting.
Let's move our recording to 9 p.m. Yeah. Usually all I have is an empty coffee cup, but in this case I'm trying real hard to see if I can avoid the throat clearing stuff. But anyway, so that 284 is, I was really hoping to get another 10 pages in and say I have wrapped this pass at editing. But as I put in my newsletter, I had one scene where I wrote too much exposition, not enough dialogue.
Yeah.
It took me a week to fix that scene.
Okay, you know what? We are gonna have a nice conversation about that in a few weeks. But anyway, I will have more to say about it now too. So
Exactly. I could tell
I
from
just
our
put it down as a hook for later on. But go ahead.
I could tell from our little pre-talk that we're sort of on the same page with that. So I mean, it was worthwhile because I got some foreshadowing out of it. I got some character development out of it. I got some, about 5 things. And a couple of other ideas for sorting out unevenness in the plot, all from spending I don't know how many days just looking at this thing on the screen and going, how the hell do I fix this?
Yeah. Yeah. You and I we're on similar paths at the moment.
We
I've got
are.
a second draft to do after this. Like I am drafted, and then I am ready to send it to somebody to actually, tell
Right.
me whether it's, it's there.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas I still have some missing scenes, right? I still have some things that are outlined that need to be turned into prose.
Yeah.
And then that will be the second draft. I mean, those, excuse me, those bits are that I need to fill in have been sort of these, vacuums that I haven't been able to quite figure out how to get them right. And some of those have been fixed now by sitting for a week staring at that damn scene.
Yeah.
Because it tells me then it's informed. It's informed what the other scenes need to do. So now
Yeah.
I have the basis to actually write them, and once that's done, I should be second draft and ready to actually let somebody else look at it from an editing perspective. So
So you're how long do you think you're away from that part?
I'm not going to even. Every time I say how far away, I think I'll be done in October 2023. That's the freaking answer.
Oh, okay. That was the original answer.
Yeah, yeah. That's when naive me went, okay, I'm going to sit down and write me a novel.
And now here we are.
Now we're much farther down the road. That's for sure. Yeah.
So it was basically a tough week for you. Like basically you had conversations going in your head. That
Well, it
weren't
was a
even
tough week.
yours.
The first week was tough, getting that scene done, and then that makes it easier to get all the other things. So after spending a week on a single page, basically, then the other whatever it was, 31 pages came.
Yeah.
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 So,
So I had no short stories this week. Very happy to say.
yes.
Except I'm in the middle of this writing battle. I don't know if I told you about writing battles or
Yes.
heard about writing battles.
Yes.
But I went with a peer-reviewed writing battle. I did not realize that I had to peer review. I thought it was just, but every few days I get two more stories that I have to pit against each other, give feedback, the likes and the dislikes, and you can't be mean.
No.
And then you have to pick a winner.
Right.
And so far, I think I've done 3 rounds of this. The winner has been clear cut,
Mhm.
like just absolutely a clear cut winner. The other has been, I keep thinking to myself, I have to be honest. If I must be honest here, and I will. One of the stories has been absolute frighteningly bad
Right.
in each round, like in each
Right.
one of my things. Like you read it and you're
Yep.
like, you have absolutely no business writing anything.
Right.
And then I think to myself, geez, I wonder if anybody's saying that about my stuff. So then I'm like,
Yeah.
oh boy. But yeah, it's really tough to read some of these because some people you can feel struggle, and they're struggling for words. They're supposed to be 500-word stories,
Mm.
and you can tell people are using filler. They're just filling
Right.
stuff up because they've said the same thing 3 or 4 times within the story, and you're like, look, it's a 500-word story. If I can't remember that
Yeah.
Zeke, is a plumber, you don't have to tell me a plumber every time that you mention Zeke. Like, I mean, Jesus, it's 500
Right.
words. It's not a novel,
Right.
but they're just trying to fill words, and so I've been up to that. Some of them are very creative. I have to be honest. There's some you get and you're like, wow, I could work with that. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I have a sort of parallel experience. I joined this critters.org thing where you're supposed to fire in 3 critiques over the span of 1 or 2 weeks. I think it's 1 week, and then you get points, and then you can use your points to have other people critique your work. And
I've heard of those. Yeah.
yeah, and it's a free community, right? It's like the cost is doing critiques.
Yeah.
So, and there's this lovely guy who runs all this stuff, and the whole site runs on donations, and it's very retro and it's very cool. So I thought, oh, this is cool. I'll sign up, and this is my critique muscle.
Yeah. I have
You
to
know?
be honest, mine's not very good either.
And so I read a couple of these stories, and like you said, some of them are just very beginner. And others were more accomplished, but I really struggled to say anything meaningful about them.
It's not that I couldn't say anything meaningful. It's just the ones that I let's say I don't connect with it. Let's
Right.
say that,
Yeah.
okay? Maybe I'm just being overly mean, but you're supposed to say something you like and something you dislike,
Yeah.
or needs improvement.
Right.
And on the ones that I don't connect with or that I dislike, I have lots of critique.
Right.
I could talk all day about how you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you should have done this. Trying to find, and they won't let you continue unless you say something that you liked about it, but it's
Right.
got to be enough that you liked about it. Like it's got to be 3 lines or 100
Uh-huh.
characters. I don't know what the criteria is, because a couple times I've said something I liked, like, hey, the main character is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
you really could go somewhere with this character.
I like
And
that you made the effort to get 500 words down.
yeah, something, but it won't let you go forward. So you've got to figure something out.
Right. Yep.
To move yourself forward. And I find sometimes the things that I like versus the things I dislike are way out of balance.
Sure.
And I
Yep.
try to be. Now I'm trying, but as you said, my critique muscle is there, and my level for terrible is even smaller. Like,
Right. Right.
if I'm reading something and I go, "Oh my god," and then I really, I can't take it. It's like driving in an 80 zone and someone's doing 20,
Right.
and you're like, "Oh, I can't stay behind this person for long, but there's traffic still coming the other way, and I can't pass." So
I think that would have
was-
been easier for me. I mean, most of the stories that I saw were reasonably well written, and so it's like you have to try to figure out what isn't really working for you with this story, and it's
But
like
is it for you, or is it just in general? That's the question. Is the story not written for me? Is the story well written per se, but just doesn't connect, which is why I say doesn't connect with me?
right.
Or is it just a poorly thought out story? Somebody needed, had 24, 48, 60, 72 hours, whatever it is, to create this story, had no idea, but decided to throw something on a page
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
hope for the best.
Yeah, well, I think it's the same as me going, okay, I'm going to write a novel, right? Somebody goes, okay, I'm going to get into this, and I'm going to write a story, and this is going to be the start of my writing career.
Yeah.
And you run into a pretty solid wall if you haven't got the groundwork of storytelling and structure and
Well, it's interesting. Last night we went to see the movie Tony, which is about Anthony Bourdain at the beginning of his basically the beginning of his life in cooking, and it's really interesting because obviously, as people know, he wrote Kitchen Confidential, which was brilliant, sold millions of copies, blah blah blah. But I understand that he also wrote like a mystery novel,
Oh yeah,
which I know somebody who read it and said it was terrible.
right, yeah,
Right. So, so maybe he can't do novels, but he could do nonfiction.
right, yeah. I mean,
And
we used to
And
watch
he wanted to
this
be a
series.
writer from the very beginning of his life. He did not want to be in kitchen work. Right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, his series on CNN was brilliant. Right.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful thing. He's a terrible loss to have him no longer with us, but I think there's probably another issue there, which is once you're famous, you can get a deal.
Yeah.
No,
that's
and then the publishers know people are going to buy your book because your name is on it, and perhaps the bar for what's inside the covers is not quite as high as it should be, right?
well, they know you're going to sell 1 million copies or whatever.
Yeah.
Just based on your name, who cares what's on the page at that point?
Well,
Which is
but it's
pretty sad.
short-sighted, right? Because if somebody had said, okay, look, we need to work on this, right? You need to go back and redraft and do these things and fix these things. in order to produce a good mystery novel, then if he did that and it was good, he'd have a career as a mystery novel writer.
Correct.
Whereas if you just slap a cover on it, put his name on the front, and ship it out there, well, then everybody goes, man, that guy cannot write mysteries. And
But on the other hand, we all watched him on TV, right? So how,
oh yeah,
you know,
yeah,
you wanted it, you want him. We're all good at something, right?
exactly.
And you've just got to find what you're good at. And yes, he wanted to be a writer. He wanted to be a novelist. But he wrote nonfiction. Like
Yep.
I've listened to and read Kitchen Confidential.
Yep.
It's really eerie these days to hear him reading Kitchen Confidential, but it's
yeah,
still nice to have his voice doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I loved his TV shows. I found some of the stuff he was eating to be just freaky, and I'm like, Jesus, good for you, buddy. But obviously, you gotta, I guess, thank your lucky stars, or thank his own lucky stars, that he was passed over for a fellowship to be a novelist.
Right.
And so he ended up in Hitchens, blah blah blah, 27 years, gets a TV show, writes this other book, the whole 9 yards that he did. But because he was stopped from doing one thing here, he was able to go on and do other things. Now
Right.
the opposite end is Hitler, but that's another story. That's another story altogether. He was stopped from being an artist, and you kind of wish maybe if he had been an artist, it would all worked out better for a lot of people. So
Yeah, exactly.
So, what else did I do this week? I saw a couple of theater pieces, which kind of sparks the creative part in your brain, right? I saw Sleuth, which was written by Anthony Schaefer, and I saw Amadeus, which was written by his brother Peter Schaefer. Didn't realize that I was doing that, but it was 2 weeks. So, only learned that in the show notes, kind of thing. So that kind of gets the mind really thinking. How creative people can be, and wants you to be creative as well. I think it also puts, as we were talking about dialogue, it really puts dialogue into your head, focusing on, this dialogue is obviously all about what theater is. And I also then saw a lecture about the Commedia dell'arte in the Italian tradition of art, which is using a mask.
Oh yeah.
And so using facial features to convey emotions and things like that. So that also puts you in a headspace where, when you're describing somebody's facial features, you have to think about that as well.
Right.
So,
Yep.
so that all said, I was immersed in art and culture, I guess, this week.
Excellent.
I am now up to chapter 49. I think I was 46 last week, something like that. Which doesn't sound like a lot. I meant to do 5 chapters, but I've re-edited things 7 times, 3 times per chapter. And right with you in the dialogue thing, I have with the 4-page chapter, really short chapter, but it is, in my mind, it's one of those crucial chapters where everybody's kind of coming together, and they're just, it's that chapter where everything is now going to race forward, but we're all, everybody's got to come together, do a slight recap. We all realize who's working with who, that we're all on the same team. Here's where we're going to go. Everybody gets their assignments, and boom. But I've got to make it sound like they're actually talking properly.
Yes.
And that took me 3 edits, of which I added 5 words in one of the edits, removed 13 words in another edit, and then added another 5 words in the other edit. So, but the whole chapter changed completely.
Right.
In its outlook. Although it's the net outlook here is minus 3 words. The whole chapter and the whole discussion has changed to be better suited. And again, that took me the better part of 3 days to get that.
Yeah.
I edit, I leave it, then I do it again. Then I edit, leave it, do it again. And each time I wrote on the top, make sure this dialogue works.
Right. Yeah, I had that, and then the next pass through was, is that dialogue in the voice of the character? right? Because sometimes I'll just write in my voice, and then it's like, nope, that is not how she would say this, right?
Yeah.
So I have to swap a couple of words around and change.
Throw a little less cursing
She's probably more foul-mouthed than my main character is. She's a hard ass.
I actually had to turn a detective, give him a little more of a foul mouth through it, because I figure that cops aren't prim and proper, so I had to give him a little rougher edge.
Yeah.
At one point, realized I was doing that, and then I have a kind of a seasoned, hard-nosed female investigative reporter. So I had to give her more of a colloquial, more of a quick timing to her questions, instead of being the please tell me.
Yeah.
No, she's boom,
bam, yeah, get in there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I've had to change some characters, realizing where they were going wrong, and so.
And it's funny, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I have a sex scene in one of the ones that I revised, and I remember struggling like all hell to write that scene the first time, and it came out fairly explicit. And then I went through it again, I think in the first edit pass, and went, nope, this needs to be toned down. So I tore a bunch of stuff out. And then I went through it again and tore even more stuff out. It's like, okay, I don't need the mechanics to communicate what's going on, right?
I'm not writing a Penthouse forum.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't that bad, but it was, it was spicy.
Yeah, so in my writing, I was asked to write a sex scene at one point, and so I did. But I gave it a twist at some point, to the point where it became a novel. And then with lots and lots of sex scenes in it. And then somebody said to me, okay, so if this takes off, if this book is really good, and you want, I see you have a mystery in here, but you also have a lot of sex, are you ready going forward to have somebody go, okay, we want this book again?
Right.
Can you do it? And I went, no, this is kind of a one-off. And they said, well, then you don't. You really want to yank out a lot of those sex scenes. If it's not going to be another 50 Shades of Grey,
right?
Because that's what you've kind of gone with. If you don't want that, then might we suggest you just turn it into a mystery, and then low key the sex scenes.
Exactly.
And that's where I actually liked the character who was the serial killer. So it turns out I switched it completely on its head, and now I've got 3 novels with him in it. So
nice.
Not killing people. He's kind of a hitman. That's what he's turned into.
There we go.
Originally, he was just kind of anyway, it's a long story, but hopefully we'll get to that story one day.
Excellent.
One day too. My big goal for this week is to just finish the edit by the end of the month. I know we're on the 24th, but I really would love to, in the next 2 weeks, to tell you that it is done. Like, I have 6 chapters to go, but I've got to get back to chapter 49 one more time, which I edited this morning, and I was like, and I again upended the whole chapter, changed a lot of things. I wanted to make one character seem a little more paranoid, seem okay on the outside world, but now you're in his lair and you're going, oh, he's a little bit on the touch side, but he's brilliant out here. But I mean, in his own place, he paranoid. He's got a ham radio in the corner, does all kinds of weird stuff, but knows his shit. And everybody thought he was pretty normal, but then into his house, and you're like, ooh, you are not right.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
It sounds good. Well, for my part, I'm confident that I will get through the remaining 10 pages on this thing, and then it is fill in the gaps, right? So I need to do another pass to make sure I've got all the right things in the right place and fill in some of my gaps. And who knows? I doubt I'll be finished that process in 2 weeks, but I had better be well into it.
Okay, I've written it down. Finish 10 pages, fill gaps. It's you know what? It's really funny as you get closer. I'm going to say closer to the end of the book, not your life, but closer to the end. The goals get theoretically simpler, but harder.
Yeah, well, they get more specific.
Yeah,
but not much easier. Yeah,
I can't. I know that this last 6 chapters is going to drive me mental, and I know that I am going to be doing 3. You can look through 1 through chapter 30, and I'm looking at the log here because I do keep a log. 1 through 39. There's an edit, and very few have a second edit. Very few. But as I go through chapter 40 through 49, I have at least 2 edits per chapter, and as of chapter 45, 3 edits per chapter.
Right.
So I guess I'm just trying to lock everything together and make sure that it's the best it can be for a finish, so that it's at least. I think we're all looking for that, a satisfying finich.
Absolutely.
You don't want to be left hanging. You don't want anything, stupid out there. Everything's got to come together, because I always think of something that if it becomes a standalone novel and nobody ever reads 2 or 3, or people come back to it from 2 or 3, that it stands alone on its own, finishes nicely, doesn't leave too much, and that we can move on to the next book, and you do not need to know what happened in 1 to get through 2.
Yeah, I think it's the difference between a series and a serial.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have book 1, book 2, book 3, and you sort of basically need to read them in order. Or you have, a set of characters who do things. And it doesn't matter which book you pick up, you get a sense of that character, and you have a story that has a beginning, a middle, and end, and resolution.
Which is the books I prefer, like Lee Child. You can pick up any Reacher book, and he's got a little synopsis of who Reacher is in each book. So if you've read them before, you already know who he is, but he'll give you a brief recap. That's a paragraph long, and I think it appears. I'm pretty sure it's like a boilerplate thing that he goes, okay, I got to put this in, and it goes, in chapter 3, boom, here's why, and I'm pretty sure I've read the same thing over and over again. When I used to read Robert B. Parker, I did read them in order, but I could pick up any Robert B. Parker novel with one of his Spencer novels, and again, he had a recap of who Spencer was somewhere in the first few chapters, but you could read it without.
Right.
I remember giving one to my mother, and she read, because I love this guy. Who is this guy? Blah blah blah. And she started reading from number 1, but she knew exactly from whichever book I had, plopped on her bed and said, "Here, read this. I think you might like it." So
I forget one of the interviews with authors that I listened to. He wrote mysteries, and he said, all you need to do to define a character is to just give them a little quirk. Just this little thing. He says, I was watching real life detectives running around doing this stuff, and he said, I noticed whenever this one guy was in a scene that was disturbing, where there was a body or something like that, he always wound up touching his glasses, repeatedly, right? And he said, so that's that quirk I put in, and it defines the character. He says, I don't describe how tall he is, I don't describe his build. That's the one thing that the character hooks onto, and then the reader can fill in the rest. And it's like, that's pretty cool, I'm not big on descriptions myself, right? Like I'll outline them, but I'm not going to say this person is this tall and has this build and this color hair and this color eyes and this, wears clothes like this,
I find myself that way as well. I think we've hit on this before. I'm probably more apt to discuss a chair than or give the characteristics of a chair than I am the person,
Right.
which is weird. If the stool has wheels and has a brown top, I'm more interested in than the person's got brown hair and is heavy set.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. We'll see how well it works. I do a little bit of both, but there's a couple of characters I'm very specific about, but they have to be that way to communicate who they are, and they're more minor characters. My major characters, for the most part, you can hopefully sketch that person out in your head and turn them into the person you want to be as a reader, right?
So last week we talked about breakthroughs, which
Yes.
I think we both have found that breakthrough in the last few months that we really are moving quite along.
It was
But
August
I
was
wanted
better
to
than
kind of
July.
step back in our lives to a point where maybe we were bored or you needed a break from writing. Do you feel that way? How? Why? Or is it just, or do you just get so down on yourself that you give it up for a while and then want to come back to it? Is there a draw after it? So I think that's where we were kind of going. I think I've just expanded on what I had written down and what I had said. But you need you get bored, you need a break, or you just get down on yourself. I guess that's the
Right.
things that could happen to you, or should, or will, or whatever.
Okay, so for me, I'm involved in so many different things that if writing isn't working for me, then I go, okay, what's next? Like it's the ADD thing, right? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, this isn't working. Well, here's a long list of things that aren't done.
Yeah.
Which one do I think I'm in the right frame of reference to make progress on? And I'll pick that one up and
But is
drop it.
is that out of boredom? Is that out of needing a break, or is that out of just at some point you've gone, am I just a poser? Am I just thinking that I'm a writer, but I'm down on myself and I don't think it's working, and I've got to get away from this. Maybe I'll never come back to it.
No, I'm a persistent son of a bitch.
Refuse to give up.
Yeah, I mean, this process has taken years more than I expected, and it has had crevices in the road
Yeah.
where I've had to stop and build a damn bridge, which also requires learning how to build a bridge, and then cross the bridge before I can carry on. And, there's no way that I'm investing that much effort into this thing without it actually getting to the point where it's out there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and perhaps the only counter to that is if I hand this to a developmental editor and they say, you should take up painting.
Yeah,
know?
that one I feel I've been at this I've written a lot. I realized that I get bored of editing. We've talked about that
Yes,
before.
yes, yeah.
And I know that I have to force myself at times to get up at 6 in the morning, make that pot of tea, light a little incense, kind of get myself into that frame of mind to edit. Whereas I used to be able to get up at 6 in the morning, hop out of bed, read the chapter I just read or wrote the day before, and hop right in and love the writing, love the creative process. But the editing process has taken me longer because I do get bored, as you said, with ADHD. You kind of, you want to do something else,
Right.
other than the thing that really is and is screaming, do me, do me, do me, and we can get this done. And I find it really difficult. Like, even though, like, I even set up right here at this desk that you and I talk from. I have another desk in the office where I do other work, but I've set up a specific place to do my writing and my editing. And I will put the the pen, the editing pen on top of the chapter, and it literally does scream at me and will do this. And sometimes I look at it and I say, meh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have the heart to do it. I don't feel it. It's not in me to do that. The problem is that when I do one day, I'll do two, and I'll do three, and then I'll do four, and then the week goes by, and I realize I haven't touched a word, and then I feel even more guilty and worse for it, and then week two goes by, and it's just I think it's like a poser syndrome, where I think, why am I doing this? When I get bogged down in dialogue, I get bogged down in a scene that I'm just not thinking is working. That's where I think I get down on myself, and I realize, and I think to myself, there's no way I'm gonna break through on this one, or two, that it deserves to be out there.
Right.
And I want it. Like every day, you're thinking, this day I'm going to do it. And then, when you hit that, when we talked about, breaking through the wall.
Yes.
When you hit that wall, it is a tough wall to really break through.
It's not easy. Yeah. Well, I mean, we could go back and watch our own clips from, late June, early July. And yeah, it's two obviously unhappy people.
Yeah. But, and I think this kind of relationship that we have built is something that every writer should get.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, people do critique groups and various other things, but the problem I have with critique groups is that we used to get together every 2 weeks, and I had to have something.
Yeah.
And if I have a period where nothing is coming out, then I used to just crank out some shit, and that is unfair to everybody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just wasn't working, and the group. I think the group is probably quietly carrying on without me.
But I have never joined a critique group.
Right.
This writing battle is the closest thing to a critique group I have ever done, and the reason is, one, I'm a slow reader. I know that. But I take in every single word that is written down.
Right.
I will never read a book twice, but I take in every single word. I have friends that are speed readers. They can read a book, and they're telling me, they read the first word and the last word, and they know everything. And I'm like, how do you do that? Right? I don't get that. I have to read every single word. But they'll read a book 3 or 4 times.
Right.
And they say, I get something out of it every time I read it. Well, of course you did. You didn't read the damn thing. You just read it. Right? Of course you're getting something new out of it.
Right. Yeah. I had a friend who was a very accomplished speed reader. I mean, you could quiz him on something as he read through it. God knows how many thousand words per second or per minute. And, he picked it all up. And it's like, okay, more power to you. But I'll read some sections quickly, and there are other places where I'll stop and I'll be going, back and forth, just looking at how something has been structured, and
or I'll read the same paragraph over and over again, just so that I fully comprehend what the heck the writer is trying to get to.
And also how they got there, right?
Yeah.
I love passages where you go, wow, that was fun to read. Let me go back and do it again, and then see if I can understand how they did that where I can't.
Right now, I'm looking at being concise. Like some of the things I've realized is I've said something at the top and I've said the same thing at the bottom.
Yep.
And it's not that I realize it until later, like maybe the third edit, where I go, gosh, I said that the same. Okay, that's got to go. Or maybe it goes in the middle, or you try to restructure, or I pull out the pad and I rewrite the whole paragraph, and you realize that maybe it's longer, but it's still more concise than the crap that you had on the page beforehand.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
More words, but more concise.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works, but it conveys things that are much better.
I
So
think you get into flow and cadence and stuff like that, right? You
yeah,
know, if you have a block of prose that doesn't flow, it feels slower than more words where everything just connects through, and you know, then you're at the end of the paragraph, and it's like, oh,
and when you hit that flow, you keep wanting to come back to your writing day in, day out. I will take the weekends off for the most part,
mm,
but if I'm really, hitting on all cylinders, I will, take a Saturday morning for a couple hours or an hour and edit a chapter. Um, or something will come to me in the middle of the day and I'll quickly just write it down and I'll think, you know what, that I think that belongs there. If I'm working from home, I have occasionally gotten up from my other desk, come over, and scratched out, look at this tomorrow,
right,
right? And
yep,
and then I do so.
yep,
But it's those, getting back to it's those either boredom, uh, poser, or needing a break parts. And every time I come back to it, I've said, "Oh, I just needed that break."
mm,
But I think I'm fooling myself at that point because there are times that I'm just bored with editing, or I feel totally like a poser, and I'm like, I need a break, but I'm like, no, I've got to come back to this, and I know this is a damn good story. Period. The end. I know it is.
right, yeah. For me, the my biggest challenge is neural pathways, for lack of a better word. Um, you know, I've been writing code for half a century. And I can sit down in my software development environment and I can get into something and I can be engaged with it for hours and get to the point where something is done and then, you know, ship it or deploy it or whatever it is that needs to happen with it. And I have as yet been unable to do that with writing. I can't fire up my writing app and sit there and get so deeply into it that I lose track of time. It's improving, but it's using a whole bunch of different neural pathways, and it's not something that I've done a lot of. I mean, all of my writing before I decided to tackle a novel was, for the lack of word, you know, journalism type stuff, right? Writing a trade post, an article, or something like that, or writing emails, or a technical letter, or something like that. All things that were, you know, this big, whereas the novel is out there somewhere.
Yeah.
And the skills don't scale, you know. And so,
Well, I
it's
noticed
hard.
as a wine journalist, I like to tell the stories of wineries. I like to tell the stories about wines, and so a lot of my pieces were doing just that.
Right.
But now that I have focused my energies more on, uh, wanting to write novels, I've gotten away from the stories of wineries and wines and more to the nitty gritty of talking about the wine itself, good, bad, indifferent, uh, and stuff like that, because I I was scratching the itch of writing a
Uh,
novel by writing about these wineries and things like that,
right.
but denying the creativity that I really wanted to have. But now I still do the wine journalism. I still taste a lot of wine. I can still write them up. I can still tell you the stories because they're in my head, but I'm not writing them down as much as I am just reviews and thoughts about the wine. I still write articles where there's a little bit of a story, but usually
Right.
now the stories that I'm telling are a little more personal.
Right.
And
Right.
so the fiction uh, comes out in this thing that I do,
Right.
so,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
or I'm
cool.
trying to do anyway. So we have our goals for next week, which is good. I think we both had a fairly good week in the old editing department. I see a tail wagging, so it's time to go outside. I have a feeling. So here's the hook for next week. It's something I wrote down a few weeks ago. Sometimes these hooks are written a few weeks in advance because we talk about something, but we already have something that I figure should be talked about. So they come down the pike a little bit. And this one's kind of a you know, you can get a twofer. This one's a threefer.
Okay.
We talked at once about reviews. So
Mhm.
want to talk about, you know, how we will handle or think about reviews. Two, critique. We talked a little bit about it at the beginning. Let's talk a little bit more in depth about critiquing others or the critiques that we have gotten in the past. And finally, I don't know if you get these things, but I get emails from like book clubs and
Uh-huh.
societies saying, "We've read your book.
Yeah.
We think it's great." And I'm thinking, we haven't read shit. But let's talk about those emails and how people, how, because you are on this side of how they probably got your information and know that you're writing something. Maybe we can discuss from your end how they get that and why I'm getting these emails so that
Right.
people can avoid
Yep.
or decide whether they're real or phony.
A little scam detection would be good. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
So, sound good?
Sounds great, man.
All right. Good luck with those 10 pages, my friend.
Thank you very much. Take care. Ciao.
Cheers.